Hello and welcome to Nibbanatv. I'm Julianne Storr. Well, there are inspiring entrepreneurs making the world of difference all over the planet. And one of those is Andreas Lombardozzi, the founder of African Pacific and the Niue organic coconut brand of products. He's here to speak to me today. Welcome, Andreas.
Hi, Julie.
Andreas, you were born and bred in South Africa. You went on to represent Italy as a world-class triathlete. How on earth did you go from that to producing Niue branded organic coconut oil products based in Sydney?
Complicated life's process. Yeah, the driving force between that really is a love for economics and law, and a stalled career path. So often I just felt that I had to move on and mix life up. So I never really stuck with one thing continuously, although that passion was always there. It took me through Africa for a year traveling. It took me through Europe to do triathlon. I needed to earn some money. I was still a student at the time, so I had the opportunity to do professional triathlon with my Italian background, and it was fantastic. I had 3 years in Europe racing triathlon, professional for Italy, and then I came back when Nelson Mandela came out of prison to continue my studies.
So how did you go from that to helping save islands in the South Pacific?
Well, what took me to the Pacific is sailing. I mean, I was still studying and I had an opportunity to sail in the Pacific with friends of mine, and landed up in Fiji with a boat in a hurricane hole and had to learn a lot about sailing and a lot about the Pacific. And I got to spend a year sailing across the Pacific and just really saw a lot of what the Pacific Island is doing with coconuts and coconut oil and how they're doing it and what the problems were there, and comparing that what I saw with my, traveling through Africa for a year. And my passion in economics is to do social integration of communities in the international economy. That's always been my pet topic, and how to facilitate that and how to bring that about. And so I just really continued learning while I was sailing in the Pacific, and just learned a lot about the culture and how they, what the different islands are and the different regions and the different languages. And, it's just a fascinating place. It's the largest geographical area in the world. It's 20 to 30,000 islands. Vanuatu alone has 87 languages in a population of 187,000 people. And they're all different, and they all got similar problems, and it's logistics, and it's far away from the market, and it's distant for them to do, and they have a very strong cultural setup they're very organic in their lifestyle still. They maintain their cultural integrity strongly. And so it always seemed that economic development couldn't work there. And so it always seemed that they have this residual poverty, that it basically means when they're in their communities on the islands, they are healthy, safe, and have food to eat. But when they go beyond that, it's just a struggle to really go beyond that. And yeah, life's process. Went home to South Africa to continue in my studies. And then my dad died, and I felt, okay, I'm going back to the Pacific sailing. And from there, I just decided, okay, I'll do my economic theory and practical. I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I'll give it a go. And took a credit card and a basket of soaps and some coconut oil to Australia from Vanuatu, and then we started.
So how long ago was that?
1998, we incorporated African Pacific here in Sydney. And I was working in Vanuatu for about a year, 8 months before that, just getting things in place and learning about trading coconut oil and dried coconut flesh, and chartered a boat and pressed oil and learned to make soap in Vanuatu with a guy that I was working with. And it was just an amazing learning experience. And then just realized, well, my role is here in Sydney to market and to coordinate and to try and implement my theory of what I believe would work. And 10 years later, we're really starting to grow, and people understand what we're trying to do. We got a strong network in all of the islands from PNG all the way to Samoa now, and we just bring the same message and give a structure that communities can work with, and small businesses can work with, to allow them to export their products and learn business skills, and what our theory of development is for them, and then translate that theory into business activities, and have contracts for them at the wharf, so they can actually, when they aspire to being in business and they're good at it and they can do it, then we encourage them all the way in a system. So we've built this vertically integrated system from community to basically the market through our brand and our structure, and it's working well.
And it's a really transparent system, isn't it? Rather than trying to take advantage of these little guys in the communities, you're really helping them understand and know what's going on.
Well, I think what we're really doing is just following what the market should do, you know, not what the market has been doing. You know, the market is really doesn't discriminate. The market just does what it's told by those who bargain, and we just bring a different model. One of the most important points is openness and transparency, so that resentment that's there of being exploited, you know, they are quite aware of what has happened, that they haven't really got the best deal. And they're interested in getting the best deal, but there's also the insecurities and everything else that our businesses suffer from. Anybody in business knows how difficult it can be, you know, and there it's logistical difficulties, and you know, there's a dominant market structures that control that market. They always have. You know, some of those businesses are in there for 45 years in the cocoa industry. They just control the market, and the question is, how do we use the market and business, which is what we're in, to transform that? And one of the critical things is just to be completely open and completely transparent. And if the communities are able to understand that they, through being the resource owners, really are the strongest part of the link, and if they understand that they can manage a supply chain into the market, then we really see changes. And they understand that. I mean, they know how hard they work. They do 80% of the work and get 20% of the income, and we're just allowing that to swap around and let them drive it from contracting the supply chain.
Well, Andreas, you came from a background in economics. What do you see as being the key issues now that we're facing in the world, and what can we as individuals and businesses do about that?
That is a big question. But I simply believe that, and I believe this for the last 10 years, and so in a way I'm really enjoying this market crisis. I'm really enjoying the credit crisis. As an economist, we believe that, well, I at least believe that nothing's new in 200 years in economics. We haven't really developed as a science. We've just gone in more detail and gone down a different road, but the basic economic theory is still the same. And in the turn of the century, Hayek wrote about the debauchement of the credit system. He predicted this 100 years ago. So it's just a matter of watching it and understanding it. And there's just, I mean, at the end of the day, the market right now is suffering from a lack of credibility. You know, it's just, businesses have not been forthright in how they're doing it. You know, the banks haven't been. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you conspiracy theory or not, business drives whatever the strongest player in business is. And it hasn't been the communities or us even. I mean, we as consumers fuel the system, you know. And so it's all about transactions in the market. That's what creates development. And I always look at it and say, who's driving the transactions? Which mentality is driving the transactions? And in the past, it has been, you know, the last 100 years only, it's been a corporate mentality where profits have been made. And that's not the critical issue, because we say small profit, small future, you know, big profit, big future. But it's how do you get that profit, and how do you administer that profit, and what do you do with it? And you know, in the last 100 years, it's really been a corporate mentality of private, you know, just really, really focusing on, you know, amassing that amount of wealth for private individuals. And we just think that the same amount of wealth can be better administrated. So my understanding is that as consumers and business become more conscious, we will drive more towards openness and towards an understanding of what world we want. And in that way, I think business really has the opportunity to make the fastest change. And that's why we chose business in the first place, in a way to try and model out what we're trying to do.